Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm Denton Davidson here with PGA Awards nominee Jen Statsky, co-creator, executive producer, and writer of Hacks. And Jen, I'm going to start right off about, what was it that inspired this series for you? It's a comedy about comedy. So how did that all begin for you in wanting to tell the story of a stand-up?
Yeah, I think that we really kind of were drawn to the idea of telling the story of a stand-up, but specifically the story of a woman in the arts who had been underappreciated, who had for years and years been hitting the pavement, pounding the pavement, working away. And while maybe other like of her peers got more recognition, she kind of wasn't given that same sort of acclaim and reverence. And we became really interested in telling a woman like that story because there are so many women like that. When you look at, like I said, the arts and just, industries at large, it has been a markedly harder path for women in that way. And so we just really wanted to honor that type of story. And of course, her being a stand-up gave us the ability to have this character be super funny, but also tell really grounded stories, which is kind of where the tone of the show finds its sweet spot.
And there's pressure for it to be funny but there's also a lot of drama and playfulness in the series. And I can't think of a better actress to hit all those notes than Jean Smart, but she's not a stand-up comedian. She's not in her 20s. She's not in her 30s. I'm curious if there was initially pushback for you as a team from the studios or anyone else in just getting this made in the first place.
Mm-hmm. The answer is no. The answer is that our partners at Universal and HBO Max really understood from the get-go what we were going for, and that we wanted this to be both comedic and dramatic in its tone. That was always kind of the goal. We pitched the show as a dark comedy. And so really what that meant was that then when the very important moment where we had to cast Deborah Vance came about, we needed an actor who was emblematic of that tone, someone who could be both so incredibly funny, but also play the drama and the more dramatic storylines. And, when you make a list of who can do that, Jean Smart is at the very top. She is so gifted on both sides of the coin. It's really quite incredible. And so we knew if we could get her, that the tone of the show would be very clear, that it was both funny, but also grounded in more dramatic moments. And so there was, I have to say, HBO Max, they really knew the kind of show we wanted to make. And then once we got Jean, it was like, it became even more crystal clear of exactly what the tone and what it was going to be.
And then complementing Jean, you have Hannah Einbinder, who plays Ava. And, the respect these characters have for each other is one thing. And then the humor comes from, how much they aggravate each other and just continue to push each other's buttons. What's your process in terms of the work you do to build the arc of these characters and their relationship over a season?
Right. That was a super important part for us of arcing out that first season, because it's very much so. They butt heads at first. Neither of them wants to be in the position they're in. Neither of them wants to admit that they need each other. And yet we see as the season develops that they very much so do need each other, and they kind of crack each other open and find themselves making each other better. And so that, by design, was very carefully plotted that would, the arc of their relationship would be, what you're hooked into season one. And yeah, we just got so lucky with Hannah, because the truth is the show doesn't work if you have someone as amazing and incredible as Jean, and then the person acting across from her is not holding their own. And so it's a testament to Hannah that someone who has, really not much experience acting was able to just knock it out of the park that way. And exactly what you're saying, make that relationship really believable, make it something you can invest in. And yeah, we really lucked out with her.
And with the new series, you never really know if it's going to take. You don't know what's going to happen once it hits airwaves. So what's this journey been like for you to win your first Emmy and to see Jean win an Emmy for this? It's been an incredible run.
Yeah, it's been really cool to me, understatement. it's just so lovely. Like you said, you just never know if something's going to hit. And when you're making it and you're in the writer's room and you're on set and you're in the edit, you're like, I think this is good. This is something I would watch. I like it, but you just never know. And you certainly never know now that there's 14 billion TV shows out there. So I think we just feel both like, that it was a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication that our cast and crew put in, especially making the show during, the depths of COVID. But then also we just feel really lucky that when it came out, people did connect with it in the way they did.
And, television has changed so much over the years. Back in the day, it used to be the norm, especially for comedies, to have 20 or 25 episodes in a season, and you hope to hit 100 so you can get rerun money, and now it's so much different. So with the way things are now, what is the benefit for you as a producer in the way you're able to tell stories and the way you're able to have a comedy like this with a longer arc? I mean, it's very different than Designing Women, which was
Right.
Smart was in 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting because even in my, I've been working professionally in TV for like 10, 11 years. And even in that just span, it has changed so much. Like I started on Parks and Recreation and same, like we did 22 episodes and it's a crazy grind. I would say that creatively, what I love about the fact that we've kind of evolved to this 8, 10, 12 episode model is, yes, there's a more of an appetite for serialized storylines, but also it allows you to be more ambitious in the types of stories you can do. Often if you're doing 22 episodes and so much of it is on stage and you're in your kind of standing sets and that's all great, but you're not going on location much. You're not stepping outside the pre-existing sets as much. And for us, for Hacks, something that our, Lucia and Yellow, who direct the pilot, and our cinematographer, Adam Bricker, like they have such an elevated style and look for the show. And we get to shoot in these like really beautiful locations all over LA and Vegas and some other places we've gotten to go this season. And that's just something that in my experience back and working 22 episodes, more network comedy, it's not, the opportunity to do that isn't there as much. So I think creatively the opportunity to just like really go to different locations and make the show look so elevated is such a wonderful gift that I really enjoy being able to do.
And in terms of being a producer, because you wear so many hats on this show, what do you consider the most important elements of making a show a success from a producer's standpoint?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that, I think juggling like the business aspect of it with the human aspect is a challenge. Like, it's an incredibly ambitious show. We're shooting all over. We block shoot, which means that every single script, like we're shooting scenes from episode 1 and scenes from episode 6 and scenes from episode 8, and it's just such a intense schedule. So I think it's managing that schedule, but also making sure that first and foremost, especially during COVID, your cast and crew is safe and healthy and everyone is feeling respected that way. And so I think as a producer, you're weighing the creative but also the business aspect of it, of like, well, creatively that's best, money wise that's best, and then also the other part of it is like, these are people you care about and they're human beings and you want to do right by them and make sure everyone is treated well. And so I think it's just like a constant balancing of all those things that you're trying to do as a producer.
And I'm always just curious, what's the relationship with you and, is it Lucia Aniello and Paul Downs, your co-creators? Yeah. How far back does that relationship go? I mean, how did this friendship form?
It goes back a while. Yeah, we all came up doing comedy in New York City at the Upright Citizens Brigade, started by Amy Poehler, which I'm sure people are familiar with. And so, yeah, we met doing, sketch comedy there in like 2008, I want to say. So we have been friends and collaborators for a long, long time. And that's been one of, the greatest joys about the show, is that on screen, this is a depiction of like a fruitful, creative collaboration. And hopefully part of the reason why people connect to it and maybe it feels authentic is that's also the story off screen, is that it is very much so a joy for us to get to work, the three of us, and collaborate and create this thing together. And to a larger extent, that's making television in general. It's such a collaborative medium. It takes an entire cast and crew of people who are all working together towards a common goal. And so, yeah, it's been, to get to, this has been such an honor and a privilege, this whole experience in general. And then to get to do it with two of my best friends is like icing on the cake.
Well, Jen, PGA Award nominee, congratulations on everything. And thanks for sitting down and chatting with us today about your work on Hacks, and best of luck.
Thanks for having me.